So congrats on the growth since you joined. And you can also take all the credit for that too, right, David?
My boss showed a picture just recently of our stock price and had my picture when I joined, right around that time where we started that lift. So I told him I'd take that into my performance review.
Good. So, when we talked and prepared for this, you talked about leading the shift at Expedia from a transaction-focused marketing to, I think, a loyalty, customer engagement initiative. Can you talk a little bit about how you've done that?
Yeah,
and where you are on that track?
Absolutely. 3-5 years ago, I think all of us were in a mobile app download arms race. We were all disclosing in our earnings releases how many app downloads we had, and frankly, at the expense of customers who just wanted to get done whatever it was that they needed to. They didn't want to take the time to download apps.
And where did this come from? Was it just this mad rush to make sure you owned the
we could probably
the
all
app stores?
We could probably all answer the questions for ourselves, but I think in our case, certainly we were trying to figure out, can we grow our relevance and get people to be sticky to our business, and frankly by paying our way there. And I think certainly what we found along the way is you can for some customers, but frankly what's much more relevant is trying to figure out the moment in time that the customer's in and figure out what it is that they're trying to accomplish. And if that is getting an app download, well then great, we want to make that as seamless and easy as possible. But ultimately we want to get them to their next trip. That's way, way more important than the app download. Yeah. And so to your original question, the pivot we had to make was moving from being inward facing to focusing again on what the customer was trying to do. And now that sounds like motherhood and apple pie.
Sounds pretty obvious, yeah.
But to actually do it, okay, to actually put the customer at the center and figure out how do I firstly discern what it is that they're trying to do, and then secondly serve them with an experience that's right. If that is, I'm shopping for my next trip. Maybe they come in on mobile web through a paid search ad. They may or may not want a mobile app download in your business. In ours, oftentimes they don't. They want to be pretty linear to get to that trip and just figure out what's the price, what are the availability, what's right for me. On the flip side, if I'm shopping for my next vacation with my family, I'm trying to go to Mexico, I'm probably going to be leaning back on the couch at night, and I'm going to be sitting with my tablet in front of me, and I'm going to be browsing. Yeah. That's a very, very different experience that is required if you're going to meet that customer's needs and give them what they need than if they're in that moment on a business trip, trying to get the hotel tonight in Chicago. So making that pivot, putting that customer at the center, that really was critical. I will say that we're not done, and we will die trying to get better in this area. But the ultimate sign of success is when mobile is really business as usual. There is no special effort of mobile. It's not one person's job. It's everyone's job.
Yeah. Internally to Expedia, do you have a product line on mobile specifically, or is it digital? Just curious how you treat that.
Yeah, we have multiple mobile products. Yeah. We are, for example, you go shop for a flight or a hotel, we're the first travel company to be responsive all the way down to 3.5. And that was a big deal. It allows us to have a lot of scale, a lot of throughput in our testing. So on mobile web, tablet web, that's the experience that you end up with. On the flip side, we also have a phone app and a tablet app. They're separate apps because they are, again, very different shopping modes that customers tend to be in. And we wanted to create experiences that met those needs. The lean back of the tablet and the quick gratification of the phone, whether they're shopping or they're in trip.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about the attribution game and conversion and where you're getting traffic? You talked about paid search, right? A lot of people coming, searching, and presumably through Google. Is that your main source of traffic? Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of where you're getting your traffic?
Certainly, yeah. So two different questions. On the traffic, we get traffic really anywhere we can. We want to be in front of customers wherever they're shopping. So it's a reach game. I think on the attribution is ultimately at the core, of course, of where we're going to allocate capital. So it's a really important question that we wrestle with. And I would say that, last touch is dead. But we are all plagued by the last touch zombie.
Can you talk about the last touch zombie? Who is that?
Well, last touch is probably where a lot of us started.
Right.
Certainly is where we started.
Right.
And so the continuity over time of understanding, what do the numbers look like on a last touch basis, it is helpful. And frankly, you want to see them get better over time. Because if they're not, you're doing probably something wrong. But on the flip side, while that's necessary, that trend, it's not sufficient. Why? Because so many customers are shopping across devices that you've got to crack this code.
Right.
Just to give one data point in our business, when customers shop for a flight, they do 48 searches on average for a flight that they're going to find. 48. Now that's across sites, across devices. It's a lot. And so if you only value that one mobile web click on that particular session, on that device, boy, you're going to miss so much. And the intelligence, it's critical to build the intelligence of understanding what are the different shopping modes that customer is going to be in. So if they're at Starbucks in the morning shopping for a hotel that they want to go to this coming weekend with their spouse, you've got to then pick it up on their tablet device when they're at home that night with their spouse and they're browsing again together. And as I said, we'll die trying to keep getting better in this area.
Can you talk about some of the tricks you've done to do that, to actually pick them up, right? So after they leave Starbucks, researching to their home, and sometimes it's just hard to figure out how to track who's who and to track them across devices. How do you do that?
Yeah.
And you talked about not driving installs as aggressively. So an appendage to that question is, are you not hitting or prompting them to download the app as aggressively? And if so, then you obviously can't track them as well. There's a balance, right? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think on the one hand, you use the data you have.
Yeah.
Okay, so for folks who are logged in, boy, oh boy, you better mine that data like crazy.
Right.
And you'd be surprised if you provide reasons, real value to customers that causes them to want to log in. Could be access to special content, could be access to special rates, et cetera, or just frankly better experiences. Then you'll see that number go up if you watch it. And using the data you have is really provides a ton of intelligence, even if you can't profile the whole base on a logged in basis. On top of that, then, to the extent that you can use patterns and understand what people like this person that we know something about what they're doing and tie these patterns together, then while you may not be 100% surgical, you can have a pretty good idea about the kinds of things that might matter. So for example, if a customer traveled from Los Angeles to Chicago and they had a certain profile of hotel that they were staying in, and we know something about the customer's past as well, we might be able to profile what folks like that person tend to do. And we can at least suggest things so that when we can't see a person logged in, they're coming to our site, but we know what they're shopping for, there's at least a probabilistic chance that we're right. If we show them certain hotels, certain flights, certain packages. So that kind of use of statistics ends up being quite helpful. On top of that, we don't do it alone. Okay, so we partner up with third parties, perhaps like a lot of you, but Facebook, Twitter, Google, folks who have access to login data across device at sometimes very, very large login rates. If you partner up with these folks, there's at least the possibility you're going to learn something new about how folks are interacting. It's that kind of intelligence that allows you to then allocate capital differently. And it ties back to that first search in the 48. Do I know if at that beginning, what's that likely to lead to downstream? Again, we'll die trying to get better at answering that question, but you got to tap into all these sources.
You'd mentioned that there was this, you're observing, and it sounded like it was still early days for the cross penetration rates for Facebook seem to be actually better than Google, but you're trying to figure out what that might be, and that may not necessarily be. It may have something to do with your audience, or might have to do with some other factors. Can you talk a little bit about that in terms of relative to, say, Google?
Yeah, so the login rates vary. If you go and talk to Facebook, they'll talk to you for your kind of business about what kind of customers' login rates are relevant to your business. Yeah. Google will often do the same, and for us, we find differences. What's interesting is these folks. This is a huge battle to win. It's completely worth it. So these guys keep innovating in different ways. So today's answer can change. Tomorrow's answer will be different. I think what's important here is that you're working with these folks to try to get access to the data that they've got. And the thing is, when you learn that, let's say Facebook it has a higher rate of return on the way that you can see it than a Google, for illustration purposes, you don't know. Does that mean that Facebook can measure better than Google can? Does that mean that customers who are shopping or going to Facebook, they tend to be more logged in type customers? Yeah. Or does it mean something real, that actually there really is a higher return there? You don't know. So our answer is we keep testing and learning to try to suss it out, and we follow the money, so to speak. Okay.
And what does that mean for your media spend habits, right? So in terms of spending $100 on Facebook versus Google, I'm imagining at some point it's gonna loop back, so that you have to make decisions about where to spend more money on digital investment. Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yep. We actually don't have a budget, interestingly. We often uncap our budget, and we try to orient our spend around profit goals. Mm-hmm. So as long as we see the profit that we expect, we'll keep spending. And so we really do follow the money in the sense of, in a direct response environment where we can shut things off and on very, very quickly, we will do exactly just that. On top of that, what we believe is today's truth is tomorrow's lie. And so we have to keep testing and learning, because you just don't know how the outside world, or frankly our capabilities, how they're going to change. Mm-hmm. And so you got to keep retesting, especially in this dynamic mobile world that we live in.
Now you mentioned you're using some of these third partners, and you mentioned some of the big ones. How about the littler ones, maybe in the Facebook ecosystem? You mentioned Kensho. You mentioned you're using Criteo, other measurement partners. Can you talk a little bit about which ones you're using and why, and where you're seeing success?
Yeah, I mean, thematically, test and learn is at the core of our DNA. Yeah. And so we will forever be trying new things. Mm-hmm. And there's all kinds of technologies that we apply today. Just to give an example of our paid search environment, we have multiple different tools just to support our bidding activities. Why? Because these companies who are out there, and frankly our in-house engineers, they're working hard to out-innovate each other. And we love that competition. We want to keep it going, and frankly, we want to be there as innovations happen, because time matters. So as our engineers do a great job to come up with an innovation, let's capitalize on it. If a third party does a great job, we'll try to capitalize on that. This is a game of inches, and in those moments, we got to be there carrying the ball.
Great. Now, you were one of the 12 companies invited to go behind the scenes to develop an Apple Watch app. Can you talk a little bit about the early returns? It's very early. Yeah. But what you've seen, what you've maybe been surprised by, or any observations there in terms of how people are using it, and maybe how you react and engage the customers that are on the app? Yeah, right. So yes, we were one of the 12 companies involved in the initial release of the Apple Watch. Yeah. And it's something that we really prioritized. It was very, very important to us. But with that watch product,
we carry a great burden. And if you're going to put a wearable on your wrist, boy, we better make sure that we respect that you're trusting us to have something that's right there with you at all times. We are only going to send you information that is really relevant in that moment. So if you're arriving at the airport, what gate do I go to? Or I've just landed, where do I go to pick up my baggage? That is very, very relevant. What we don't want to do is send a marketing offer for a car rental on that trip that you're going to take in 4 weeks. That is the first thing that will allow things to go wrong. Some of the early engagement data, and it is quite early, is very promising. But ultimately, it's about us providing very, very relevant communications. We believe that if we're loyal to our customers by respecting that line, they will engage with what we send them. And they are. But we don't want to go past that line.
Mm-hmm. Now you talked, a lot about the 48 searches. That means that there's a hugely competitive market, right? I mean, you can't get much more competitive than that if people are like obsessed enough to be doing 48 searches on making sure they get the cheapest possible ticket across the country or wherever they're going. Yep. And there are a lot of competitors out there. Can you talk a little bit, I mean, as a big player in the industry and as one that's been growing and has some momentum and obviously has some resources, how can you use those resources and all that traffic and all that data to get an advantage over the competition, some of the smaller players, right, the Hipmunks and others, to maintain that advantage and feed that back into some sort of product differentiation? Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. It is a very, very competitive market, the travel world. It's a $1.3 trillion market.
Yeah.
And so with good reason, right? I mean, that's a lot of money to go after. And so yes, there are a lot of competitors there. And for consumers, this is something that we all care about. We spend a lot of money on it, and we have so little vacation, you want it to go right. So we shop around a lot. And so yes, it is very, very competitive. To your question about the data, we have a belief that data has to be at the core of all of our decision making. So what I think is best for a consumer is totally irrelevant. What is relevant is what the data tells us is relevant to the consumer. Right. And so we go to great pains to collect data and to test experiences in front of customers. It's at the core of our culture. We do more than 1,000 tests a year on our product and on our marketing separately. And we're accelerating that rate we think at a rate that nobody else in the industry can match.
Got it.
And it's the insight that comes from how best to serve customers, and then secondarily, how to allocate capital against those customers. That's really emanating from that rich data that we collect.
Got it. Right. So when I asked about product differentiation, it's something that's actually probably not extremely easy to point at, but the results are what are going to show, is what you're saying, right? As long as I can reach you from any device, from any location, yeah, you're doing your job, right? Is there any other way you'd characterize the differentiation so that clearly somebody has a reason to go to, say, Expedia versus another product?
Sure. There's a lot we do every day to try to make our value proposition unique to customers. We are the only global multi-product travel agency. So you can buy almost anything you need when you go on a trip, a flight, a hotel, a car, activities, cruises, you name it. And we're global. And global matters in travel because, I don't only travel within the United States, I go all around the world. That's right. And many of us do. So from a consumer perspective, that really matters. It's easier to buy in one place and go wherever I want to go. From a business perspective, we're ultimately a retailer, and all retailers, you got to get people into the store, and then you got to sell them a basket. And if we do that well as a business, that's an advantage over a business that only has one product to sell. And I would say that you do that globally. What you find as well is that driving a customer into a hotel in London That might cost me a different amount if that customer's traveling from within the UK to that hotel in London than if they're starting in Des Moines, Iowa. And ultimately, I need to fill that room. If I have customers I can send from all around the world to that room, there's an advantage, at least potentially, in that.
Great. Yeah, hey, David, well, thank you for the results. Are you going to stick around for some drinks and join us?
Would love to.
No, seriously, congratulations on the results. Just phenomenal. And I look forward to seeing what the story does. Thank you very much. Yep.
Thank you.